Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode. This episode is dedicated to a sentence that I heard from a musician. It's the name of their song, and it's the song that I'm playing right now in the background, Dark Beyond the Blue. I have a bunch of artists that, some people have celebrities they want to meet. I have certain artists who their music was important in a part of my life that I would like to meet. So anyways, the name of the song is Dark Beyond the Blue, but the implication of this sentence, it is a very profound and very poetic sentence. So what does it mean, dark beyond the blue? It's a suggestion of just outer space, obviously, but aside from that, it's a suggestion of the unknown beyond the known. How it is unknown beyond what we know. Do we all acknowledge this? Can all human beings acknowledge that there's an unknown variable to the moment that we're experiencing?
Mr. Clean Magic Eraser powers through tough messes, so it makes it look like I spent.
Man, these ads make you want to break your phone, but you need it. So, the attention must engage the world and go forth because there is nothing else. Dark Beyond the Blue. Not only is it a tribute to one of my favorite musicians, Hammock. Dark Beyond the Blue, that's the name of the song. But it is also a tribute to the legacy of the human species, how we will conquer the dark beyond the blue. How there will come a time where we will not fear darkness ever again. How we will realize it is giving permission for the light. I didn't realize it when I was young, but all the bad people were in some sense letting the good people feel good. And all the good people are letting the bad people feel bad. And it's really the other side. It's like it's a double-edged world, but we're conditioned on one side of the coin. And for how long? In this lifetime, there are moments where I ask myself, what is the significance of the context or the world you find yourself in? I ask myself, is this world purely physical? Does it need a physical solution? Does it need a physical action? I ask myself, is this world non-physical? Could it be purely non-physical? If it is non-physical, what can I do with an awareness of physicality? And what could be a non-physical action? And the closest I've come to it's an attitude. Our attitudes are decisions about to be made. And we don't realize it because we only see what's outside without looking within. I freed myself from my own foolishness and I freed myself from my own intellect. And do you know how I freed myself? The moment I realize I don't know what is looking through my eyes and where it is looking, and when I realize the human species has crawled into a cocoon of language waiting for it to, in some sense, allow. Inside in the metamorphosis process of a caterpillar, I don't know if many people know this, but the caterpillar cells begin to die. And just like the Sufi mystics from 1,000 years ago, they were like, go and die before you die. Do you know? And what they meant is that realize you are not a subject. Do you think you're a subject? Do you think you're just an idea in the middle of nowhere? And even beyond that, more bizarre, whoever you are that thinks you're a thought. Can a thought think? Can a thought be a noun and a verb at the same time? And when will we realize that there is a world behind our eyes? I'm calling it the inner realm so it becomes accessible to our species. Because there is such a destiny for everything that has been done so far. Our ancestors did not just build physical things. They had moments where they silently looked at the world, and those moments were precious. Because we sometimes are born for what was in the blind spot of our ancestors. Do you know I come from a lineage of businessmen? I'm not kidding. Do you know my grandfather was a businessman on both sides of the family? Do you know my father is a businessman? All my uncles are businessmen on one side of the family. And so, it was as if I was raised to be, I don't know how to tell you, but I was raised to, in some sense, become a business warrior, but I became a philosophy sage. Let me tell you why. Because old world business is war, and war requires deception. And a man should only deceive as a protective measure. Okay? Imagine a group of bandits went to kill some guy in a village. And as they're going, imagine some guy notices these bandits are going and he doesn't want the bandits to go to his village. And he says, yo, how do we get to the village? And the guy gives a wrong answer. The guy lies. And the bandits go a other direction and they can't find the village and whatever. They go and the thing passes. But in that moment, the person could have been honest, but the honesty could have led to greater destruction. And I'm not saying don't be honest. You see, for me, if somebody says, Mr. Within, do you lie? I would say I don't lie. But if somebody says, Mr. Within, do you sometimes not say the truth? I'll be like, yeah. There's moments where I stay silent. Because sometimes I don't know if that truth will be too extreme. Like when I give these Mr. Within talks, I'm kind of filterizing it for an any age audience. At least I try to. Because what you speak about ends up animating the atmosphere and the spirit of whatever engages with what you speak about. Do you understand? That means if the way I hold myself, whoever listens to me, that's how the energy comes across. Do you understand? That means anyways. So dark beyond the blue. And so what could the unknown beyond the known imply? You right now are a known being, correct? Everybody's like knowing themselves. Everybody has a name. Everybody has an identity. Most people have social media profiles. What is this? Do you understand? It's self-continuity, which unfortunately has become synonymous with, self. It's like survival, and self-continuity and self-survival have become synonymous. But people have to decide what they want to continue. For example, I'll give you an example. Like me, I kind of realized at some point that, the way I'm looking at certain things may be different from others. And due to that nature, I realized that it's kind of like every person managing their own world vibe on this planet. Okay? Can you imagine they tell someone, when are you going to die? And the person says, I should have died before I was born. And what that means is I should have realized the nature of reality before I entered it. Do you understand what the issue is? You know, we've entered a house party and we don't know who the host is. And the host can be given the attribute of being an archetype of the creator of the world. So we are inside the house party, but the host is nowhere. We don't know if the host is upstairs. We don't know if the host is outside. Some people say the host has surveillance cameras and is watching everybody in the house party. Do you understand? But we're still waiting for the host. You know, and imagine, you know, some people in centuries ago, a while back, you know, thousands of years ago, imagine like the son of the host came and was like, hey, everybody, relax, stop destroying the house. And so, you know, one of the most bizarre things, and I was like, yo, when I was younger, when they told me religion is God is testing man on earth, I thought my parents were saying that to like make me study. You know, when they said, yo, the God is testing everyone. You know, I was like, yeah, all right, parents, I get it. You want me to study? I'm not studying, okay. But, you know, later on I realized what it is it's a test of character. So for a religious person, the stature of your non-physical character, which is another way of saying how open your heart is way more important than intellectual, materialistic attainment. You know, sometimes in life it's strange. When I give these talks, I feel like I've already given them. I feel like what I'm talking about is so already there, present in the world, that when I talk about it, all that I can be is a mirror. Do you know this was the flaw? This was the issue. Do you understand? I have been born in a time in human history where the human being, there was a time where it was idol worship, okay, object worship. Then we went to a time where it was ideal worship, subject worship. But now we have come to a point where we have pushed out the invisible other. We have pushed out God, right? The creator dynamic, and we have made ourselves the creator of ourselves, even though that's impossible. That means on some level, you know, I mean, one can make that. Okay, here, I'll tell you something freaking hilarious. There was this guy in India who he sues his parents. His parents kick him out of the house, right? And this guy's like, I'm gonna sue you guys, right? And the parents are like, what? You're gonna sue us for what? For kicking you out of our house? And the Indian kid was like, no, I'm gonna sue you for bringing me into this world, then kicking me out. I'm your responsibility. Who created me? If I create an artwork right now, is it my responsibility or is it the artwork's responsibility? And the parents were like, what the fuck? What kind of child have you raised? And so this thing gets to court. It goes to court. Now check this out. Look at how it gets resolved. They go into the court, right, and they're like, okay, this guy has some sort of argument. And then they're like, parents, what do you have to say? Okay, this child is blaming you for it is suing you. And the parents are like, yo, if our child is suing us, we're gonna sue our grandparents. And then if we're gonna sue our grandparents, they have to sue their grandparents. So it's an infinite regression. Whose fault is our existence? Is it those before us, or is it ours, or is it those after us? Do you see? And the kid was kicked out of the courtroom being like, fool. Honor where you have come from. There are people who are patriots, of nations. They're like, yo, I love this nation. I was born in this nation. But do you have the same compassion for the parts of the periodic table that are not just land, but are your parents? Do you understand? Like, I mean, of course, there's cultural differences. There's human nature. Do you understand? There's, you can get biblical and say some people are angels, some people are demons. Do you understand? But in reality, what is the idea? The idea is consciousness must be responsible for creation, for maintenance, and destruction. And if you're responsible for these three levels, it's kind of like Brahman, Vishnu. Brahman is the archetype of the creator in Vedanta, and then we have Vishnu, the archetype of the maintainer, and then Shiva, the archetype of the destroyer. What are these three archetypes? What are their values? These are universal. These are not just gods. These are ways that we see the animate soul see itself. Because you can't tell an unknown being you're a soul and expect that being be like, oh yeah, you just called me a soul and I'm gonna forget about that, just think it doesn't exist. You have brought forth the question of questions. You have brought forth the question that is wondering about what is viewing it all, what is aware that I am aware, and is it separate from who I am? Do you know what it is for a majority of Western kids in the future? Some part of me knows this must happen. There's going to come an era where we're going to start worshiping the stars. Right now, it's not happening yet. Right now, people are worshiping TV stars. It's like, that's not even a real star, man. Go. If you wanted to worship a star, go start worship like an actual star in the sky, or be an Egyptian, ancient Egyptian. See, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I think it makes sense that the ancient Egyptians were like, yo, there's this ball of fire in the sky, this ball of light, and when we look at it, we can't see it, and it leaves. Do you understand? The ancient Egyptians interpreted the absence of light as the sun goes up and down as the movement of a god. The ancient Egyptians were tripping. They're like, yo, sunlight, that's God. That means anytime there was sunlight, they'd run towards it as if they're getting closer to God. You know? And can you imagine the caveman? Okay, imagine the first caveman who was just standing in the sun, then suddenly went into the shadow and was like, whoa, did I discover a new dimension? On some level, the soul is alone. This doesn't mean it's lonely. It just means the nature of the responsibility of our own existence, like it's an individual experience, right? Like I can't expect somebody else to come and move my body for me, right? So similarly, it's like we should, like one then asks the question, should I expect someone to come and move my world? What I have realized, if somebody was like, yo, how can you, okay, let's say an extraterrestrial landed in the park and I was walking a dog I didn't have yet, okay? And so, as I'm walking this dog, right, that I don't have yet, you imagine it's like a hot dog and I've put a top hat and a bow on it, I mean, if the dog's comfortable, like... And I think, I don't know, I might call, like... I might call my dog Sir Good World. I don't know. Or I might just call my dog Victory. And every time I'll be like, Victory, come here. People will be like, what's wrong with this guy? Oh, man. Alone in the world. It's cool. Let me tell you, there's an urge in the human being. I don't want to say, okay, this is a very good way for me to go about this. Let's say there are 3 urges within the human experience that the human being has discovered for now. These urges include the urge to create, and then the urge to maintain, and then the urge to destroy. When you look at children, when you look at really young children, like super young toddlers, like they may have an urge to create and destroy, but they don't have an urge to maintain. You understand what I'm saying? Then, the young child, the parents are trying to teach it like, yo, be responsible for your actions. So when the child does something, right, they're making it responsible for its urge of creating. And then suddenly when it does something wrong, they make it responsible of the urge of destruction. That means don't do that. That means like, don't destroy, child. This world you're in, don't destroy it. It's not smart. And then, so what I'm saying is the young child is cultivating the responsibility to create. That's when the parents smile. And then are trying to cultivate the responsibility of destruction. That's when the parents frown and scold the child. But after, I would give it age 25. I don't know why, but in other talks, I think I considered like this is where I'm gonna plant the flag. Okay, so I would say after the age of 25, something happens that you suddenly realize the importance of the urge of maintenance, to maintain, to preserve, to walk with the elegance of the highest vision. Do you understand? Like imagine, for me, I'm someone, people are like, Mr. Within, do you want to be king? I'll be like, no, but I want a royal species. Do you understand? I want a species where it's like 8 billion kings and queens living for the greatest kingdom of them all. The beyond. So the responsibility to maintain, many beings don't understand this. Let me tell you why. Because of fear and because of desire. Do you understand? That means if somebody was like Mr. Within, what are two non-physical forces that are like acting as opponents or enemies of mankind? If somebody was like, who are the non-physical enemies of mankind? And even a religious person would be like, is it Satan? Is it the devil? Is it demons? As a New Age person, is it evil aliens? And I'll be like, wake up from the bedtime stories. We're not in bed anymore. What I mean by this is that the young soul understands its own power. The old soul realizes there is only the world's power here. An individual can come up in front of an individual and be like, yo, I'm more powerful, look at me, I have the bigger club. Because I have the bigger club, the bigger stick, everybody has to listen to me. And and then there's some wise people who are like, buddy, you just picked up a stick, I can pick up a bigger stick too. And what does that mean? That means the power is coming from how we use the world. And an advanced civilization would be a completely efficient system where when the self, the world, and the species will use each other in incredibly efficient ways. And you know what's going to be, what it's going to be like in an advanced civilization, what video games have trained many generations of human beings for. Companies are going to have quests. What that means is they're not going to hire employees anymore. They're just going to hire problem solvers for a specific problem. That way, it would be like a very good law to pass. Do you understand? That means people would be employed in accordance to project. So that means that means the advanced civilization would constantly give them options of advanced projects and advanced teams to work in. There was a time when I saw the movie X-Men, and I saw like Professor Xavier kind of have this school, and then like Magneto coming being like, yo man, grow some hair on your chest. Grow some hair and come to the Sith Lord side, And I thought he was a fool, man. Professor X, I thought he was a fool. Do you understand? He should have been working with the government. What is this guy doing, having his own school? Like, do you know what I mean? There's this anime called, that is way more advanced than the X-Men idea, and it's called Hero Academia. It's this Japanese anime. the comic book made into a show. But as I'm someone who loves stories, I'm pretty much like, back in the day, men were hunters, so I'm kind of like, I hunt for stories. I try to see, for me, what's fascinating about life is not what you see, but how the additional sight is what is how what you see has meaning. It even goes to this question that as a temporary being, let's say you're someone and you're like, yo, I want to live with honor. Imagine some people like put hats, wear like baseball caps, right? So similarly, what I'm saying is like, some people want to live in honor, they want to walk in honor. And what is honor for a temporary being? We know that continuity is honorable. We know that survival is honorable. We know that victory is honorable. We know that back in the day, the organizational system was that there were kings. And do you understand? It didn't matter who you were you were like imagine you were a peasant villager boy, right? And people were like, yo, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the kid would be like, deep down, he wanted to be king. But he would say, I want to be part of the royal guard. And just the fact that back in the day, there was a psychological organizational structure of trying to preserve the values that keep the world moving. Right now, we're living in a time where every human being is an Oscar-winning actor. I remember I saw this video I think it was on TikTok before I deleted the app.
Let me share the biggest mistakes that filmed.
And it was this video of showing these very beautiful girls crying, and midway as they're crying, they suddenly start laughing as if it was all fake. So they do this Oscar-winning performance of real tears, and then they were suddenly smiling as if like, yo, you dumbass, So what does this mean? This means every human being should be acknowledged as a multidimensional entity. That means there's some dimensions that are not visible. Even when I give these talks, there's some things I'm not sharing about myself even, because sometimes it's unnecessary. For me, my task is to build an advanced civilization as fast as possible. And if anybody gets attached to my identity, I have to be like, my identity is the advanced civilization. That means anybody's like, yo, Mr. Within, what are you saying, really? I'm like, build an advanced civilization, man. That's really it. Start advancing your corner of civilization, and you will meet the others who are advancing their corners of civilization. That's how it happens. In the logos kind of poetically told me it's like the song of the advanced civilizations. That means it's kind of like one person begins playing an instrument in a beautiful way, and then another, then another, then another, and then they realize it's all being conducted as part of a grand symphony. We are the grand symphony of intelligence. I mean, just look at it. It doesn't matter who you think somebody is smart or stupid. That doesn't even make sense, because there's so many dimensions we don't know. Us believing that our impression of others is them is stupider than them actually being stupid. For me, the world, suddenly every person on this planet turned into an unknown being the moment I realized I'm an unknown being to myself. And there's nothing wrong with the unknown being unknown, but the knowledge is the opportunity. And you get to see always what you deserve. I don't know. Even though, even though when I was younger, I think a part of me would get upset at certain things that would happen, right? But at the same time, a part of me was like, yo, it's not in my control. So many things that are happening are not in my control. The only thing that's in my control is just pressing the record button right now and just talking. I was like, yo, this is something where I can express a lot of, I can create a lot, and it's kind of like, believe it or not, free. That's the beautiful thing about the internet. It's free information, right? But you can also be part of that river. And for me, I just realized that, it's like, I was talking to my brother yesterday, and I was telling him, man, I've given like 2,000 talks, and like, what's the expectation? The expectation is to give the 10,000 talks, right? And I thought, what if I do the craziest chess move and completely shift gears and go do completely something else? I thought, like, yo, what would that be? Do you understand? So I questioned the value of the momentum of what I was maintaining, to a point where I was like, okay, the seeds have been planted here, go to another sector and start planting seeds there. Seeds of what? Seeds of the advanced civilization, you know what I'm saying? And so, let me see. There's definitely more to say here. So, I guess let me bring the notepad. So what do we have here? Dark beyond the blue. All right. Guys, I don't know whoever it is, for me, like, okay, whatever. I wanted to say, like, instead of calling it a pun, we need to call it a double-edged word, and we need to call it double-edged sentences. This is something I've said often in the talks. Okay, what the hell am I listening to right now? What the heaven am I listening to right now? What the samsara am I listening to right now? What the Pure Land Buddhisms, Mahayana Buddhism am I listening to right now? Okay. So, what is dark? It can be a suggestion, the unknown, and it can be the suggestion, the absence of photons. And here there's a discussion. I think this is something where I think both of them are valid, but it's kind of like a, theoretical physical discussion of whether light is a wave or a particle. Photons is the depiction of it as a particle. So then we go here, what is beyond? Beyond is also the unknown. And so what does the beyond mean? The beyond means what you see is not the only sight. What an incredible sentence. Oh my God, what you see is not the only sight. Wow, what a sentence. Wow. Can't believe, who wrote this sentence. So what is blue? Blue is a color, and also in philosophy, a universal. Is it a double-edged sentence? Okay, so is it a double-edged sentence? What does that mean? So here, I'll make an acronym out of it. We could even start the Dark Beyond the Blue movement, and people are like, yo, there's more than what we see. There's what's even beyond our sky, even beyond the skies of our sight, or like the edges of our consciousness. So one, dark beyond the blue, outer space waits for us. And then we have dark beyond the blue, the unknown is inevitable. See, some people may think that because we're creatures and we're conscious, the point of life is knowledge. But in reality, I find the most advanced beings realize that if they can become comfortable with the unknown, they can give themselves a permission to at least live a life where it's fearless, because the main fear is from the unknown. Right now, if somebody's like, Mr. Within, are you afraid? I'll be like, it's conditional, the fear. That means it depends on what situation am I in. right? If am I in a situation where it's like is my existence going to stop? And even if it stops, there's going to be a moment where I have to be like, okay, I'm taking off the mask now. Now it's like, if there is a life beyond this life, then it would be as if that's where, if this life was the cosmic joke, this life was a joke, there it's no joke. You see what I mean? That means you get to see your nature. There was this beautiful scene in this anime, Japanese comic book again, made into a show, called Demon Slayer. Okay? And I think this was in the film. They had this film, this train film. It's like this, it was a good work of animation. I mean, I could, as somebody who one day in the future may get into like the anime industry and whatnot, that's kind of on my bucket list. But in that train movie, there's a scene where this person goes and sees this person. He's deceived their soul. So there's a point. It's very bizarre if you think about it from a storytelling angle. But in the show, there is a scene where I don't remember exactly, but there's this character that gets to see the soul of the main character. And when he goes into that dimension where he's going to see the soul of the main character, he sees the soul of the main character is like a clear sky. It's like the most peaceful thing. And that means even when the kids entered there to come and destroy this guy's soul, the beings in this guy's soul guide the guy towards the guy's heart. And the guy who's there to kind of destroy this kid's soul suddenly starts crying. Why? Because the one he went to destroy was such a helpful being that his soul was helping the person who had come to destroy his soul. Like, it's such an otherworldly, like, I don't know. Sometimes I think I have to go find, Japanese, metaphysicists and kind of have like deep discussions on this stuff, I really hope like certain Japanese philosophers reach out, And also subscribe. Imagine in the future they create a device or they find a way that when you talk, when you generate sound, like the opposite of, you get the opposite of thirsty, you know what I mean? I don't know, man. In the future there might be like air markets, It's like, it's like my store is selling fresher air than the other store. Come here, customers of a, mistaken world. I don't know what it is, it's kind of like 8 billion unknown creatures, unknown beings in an unknown world, and the greatest idea is for all of us to work together to build something that will make it easier for all of us to live together. That's it. Imagine the evil people on the planet were like, Mr. Within, give an argument why we should care to work with the good people. And imagine there are evil people, authentic evil people are like, why should we work with artificial good people? So this is where the argument would be chaos and order and duality is an endless dance. That means whether you like good people or bad, or good people like bad people, whether you like that, it's an endless duality. Do you understand? It's like the cosmos is a dualistic situation, so this dualistic situation has echoed behind our eyes as values that we attribute to the dualistic cosmos in the outer realms. I guess that's it for the dark beyond the blue. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. It's a poetic pointer to how there's so much more than we are basing our reality on. Like, imagine whoever you are right now. Let's say right now you're someone who has the poster of like your superheroes or your favorite artists on your wall. And I'm kind of saying, like, just for a second, think about what can heroism mean for 8 billion individual creatures that look like each other, have the same skeleton structure in the world, right? That means imagine everybody's skin color. In the future, imagine the government makes everybody's skin color transparent. And then they're like, all right, we ended racism because we're all like the color of our muscle and organs. You know, and imagine like when you went on a date, right? The skin color was transparent so the person could see if you were a smoker or not by just looking at you, you know? Unless you were wearing a shirt, you know what I mean? You see, it's all about what we started off as being our comfort reference point and position, but there's so much more than that. Do you understand? Sometimes knowledge or advancement is like wondering about what context is everything happening in? What context is everything happening for me? What context am I extracting meaning out of, the meaningless? By the way, whoever's listening, feel free to ask questions or even challenge what I'm saying, you know? Because the idea is we're 8 billion creatures on a rock trying to figure out what, like, WTF question mark, you know? You know, I think, in the future, when I have children, right, I might have to make all these talks members only. So the children can't listen to it. I mean, they can, right? But the idea is that if they listen to it, I can't teach them. It's like my past selves are teaching them, Can you imagine? Like, it's like, I think I've done something where anybody who knows me, if anything happens to me, I'm technically still here in cyberspace, That's kind of bizarre, no? My lectures are going to outlive me. You believe that? That means when I'm giving these live streams, the lectures are going to be here forever. It's the one who's giving them that's not going to be here forever. But the idea is we live, in the most advanced way we can. And then we will have an honor, whatever happens. We will have our honor. Just like people have pensions, if you live well, honorably, you pursue the excellence of your own perception, not others' perception. You will be fascinated, do you understand? Like this whole thing with the manosphere stuff happening online, like it's kind of like, do you know what it is? It's the whole thing of superhero culture in reality. Do you understand? It's like you can go to the movies and see advanced superheroes, or if you can't see them in the movies, you try to see them outside. But the idea is what you see in others it has to do more with you than them. And everybody has their own, I would say, karmic path, really. When I was younger, I was like, man, I didn't have the consciousness of the distinction between isolation and loneliness. Loneliness is when you're alone and you don't want to be. Isolation is when you actually want to be alone, right? And so that's the hilarious thing. When you don't want something and it happens to you, you suffer. When you want something and it happens to you, it's a blessing. Isn't that hilarious? I think that's hilarious, right? And I don't know, I think the nature of reality is that we do what we do until, we get bored and then we do something else. Like, what else does reincarnation, like, what else is transcendence, right? The person's bored of existing. That means if life was so unknown, or if life was so incredible, if we were living in a utopia, nobody may be spiritual. Spirituality is a byproduct of realizing your suffering. That means the people who gravitate towards spirituality is because they've had some type of trauma, physical, non-physical or emotional. A lot of people emotional. It's the same, for example, with cigarettes, believe it or not, right? That means it's a defeat. Cigarettes is for those who've experienced a defeat. They've been defeated at some point, For example, I remember when I actually started smoking, and it was when somebody threw my hard drive with think of it with 300, maybe for 400 lectures in it, right, was destroyed. And it was a moment where I just kind of felt an iceberg, imagine a part of the iceberg suddenly disconnects and flows, and the iceberg can never reconnect to it. It was one of those moments where I felt this emptiness, an emptiness I didn't want, but the emptiness found me. And from that emptiness, I made a foolish choice, and now I'm paying the price of it, right? This is why I'm saying the best time to quit smoking is before you smoke your first cigarette. Because that's how unnecessary of, let's say, an additional thing it could be. It could be, unless, you could be a soldier in the trenches and be like, yo, man, this is nothing. But it depends on your mindset. I'm saying it more for the younger generations. Unless in the future, cigarette companies create cigarettes that don't kill you. Imagine you smoked a cigarette and it was energizing you and healing you. Everybody would smoke cigarettes. Wouldn't you? Do you know what I'm saying, though? Imagine a world where all the things that are destroying us, this is what scientists are destined for, to make all the stuff that is destroying us help us live better. There was this scene, I don't know what show it was, right? But it was this TV show where there was this camera crew, and they had intentionally made this guy, park his car, and the camera guy was hidden, right? And there was this guy saying, hey, can anybody help me? I need to change my flat tire. Can anybody help me? And the guy with the microphone in his hand and the camera crew are hiding in a van or something, okay? And so in that moment, the guy keeps saying, can anybody help me? Nobody helps him. And suddenly, out of nowhere, this African-American kid runs and comes and helps this guy. Okay? This kid who's maybe 17 or something, right? Comes and immediately, with such a refreshing, incredible attitude. I think that kid would go on to be a great leader of mankind, to be honest. I don't know who that kid is, but that kid in the video. So that kid runs immediately, okay, and shows and runs immediately and helps this guy change his tire and does most of the work. And the guy is shocked. What a good Samaritan, yeah, Oh man, what a good civilian. I can't pronounce it, And so the guy gets out of the van, the guy with the microphone and the suit, and he goes up to the kid and he's like, oh my God, you displayed an incredible act of kindness. What made you, how were you looking at things that it made you do this? And the kid says, are you telling me I'm on a TV show right now? And the kid starts getting super happy and he says, this is alchemy. And he takes his sleeve off. How do I say it? He pulls up his t-shirt sleeve and he has this tattoo of this circle, triangle, lines thing in it. And he says to the guy, it's alchemy. That means you convert a bad situation into a good one and more good things happen. Right? And it was just mind-blowing, right? And when I think about it, it was even more mind-blowing. I was a kid and somehow I watched this on TV. Do you know? We can recycle inefficiency. But it doesn't mean destroy it, right? That means an advanced civilization, it's kind of like if the good people are like, yo, we got to destroy evil, I'll be like, hold on. And if the evil people are like, yo, we got to destroy good, I'll be like, hold on. And I'll be like, how about both of you, imagine, hey, duality, instead of chaos and armies of chaos and order, both of you fighting, right? Instead, help build an advanced civilization, then continue your fighting. Do you understand? I'm telling all the good and evil people in the world, pause your good and evil agendas, help Mr. Within build an advanced civilization, then play whatever game you want. It's going to be a better place to play it. Do you know? Because the thing is endless. Do you understand? That means how many creatures build something and some creatures come and destroy. Like how many? It happens too much. It's weird, you know? Like it's unnecessary. When something unnecessary happens too much, we have to be like, okay, something's off, you know? You know what I'm saying? Like that's important. Anyways. Ooh. Where to, where from? How come, here, why? You know what the vision is going to be? You know what the privilege I think I might have in the future? I don't know. Leaders never claim themselves. Leaders are in some sense, nature brings them. And I don't know, after 31 laps around the sun, I have no clue where this is going. But I have a sense, I have a sense that my own existence is as important as the existence and the victory of the whole system, the human system. And so that's really what it is. If I was to create, actually, I think this is the best thing. I'm going to create a school of thought called the human system. Because really, we are a system, and then there's multiple systems, and all these systems are acting together to mobilize a system inside a greater system. Do you understand? Like all the biological system and cognitive system. Your heart is beating so your mind can wonder where it is. Do not let the efforts of your heartbeat go to waste. For me, even though I come and sit here and give these talks, but a part of me knows that it's like multidimensional. What that means is I have a relationship with myself, I have a relationship with my species as a member of my species, and then I have a relationship with my world. If I was to say the relationship I have with my species, that's archetype bound. I'm playing a role. Mr. Within is a role for me. The world communicates to us, through us, because it is through us that we access the world. That means it's kind of like, imagine a microscope, but imagine the lens is the human biological creature. So imagine an unknown viewer is looking through the lens of a human archetype, human format, position, and so something is looking through the human eyes. Now, I have come to the conclusion that that which is looking through our eyes is unknown, and it's a presence. It's not a person. That means some people think their soul, like, yo, in my past life I was an emperor. It's like, really? You know, it's like in my past life I was beyond life. And you know, some beings, you know, it depends on your the rhythms you choose. You know, the privilege of Earth is that you can realign. Earth is, this plane of existence is like an airport. Beings come here to be able to get a reference point of themselves and then realign their understanding. So you know what it is? It's kind of, we are like invisible spaces that reincarnate, that animate, that move an objective materialism by acting as its space. So imagine, instead of aliens looking like, you know, having faces and bodies, imagine the aliens are spheres. Or imagine spheres, energetic spheres, in invisible spheres in another dimension. Okay, so these spheres come and they come upon a creature, and the creature fully is encapsulated in the sphere. After a while, the creature will realize that the access to intelligence it finds through this invisible sphere that is overlaid upon it, that it is within, then it will begin to identify with the intelligence of that invisible sphere. We right now, even the one speaking right now, if somebody says, are you the intelligent invisible sphere? I will say, it's different. It's kind of like geometry is the last world before the spirit realm. Imagine there's a geometrical bridge to cross. Okay, this geometrical bridge is the awareness. It's like if you thought you were a soul in a body, now Mr.Within is telling you you are a soul within a geometric perception. And you're like, what do you mean geometric perception? Everything you see is filled with lines, shape, color, space, density. Just think about that. We are within a geometrical realm. We are within Plato's world of forms. Earth is the Plato's world of forms for the mind. There is a geometrical dimension here. But this geometrical dimension it's not the soul. It's the mind's secret corner. So think of it this way, that you can treat yourself as one being that has 3 dimensions, or you could treat yourself as 3 beings from 3 different dimensions. You could treat your biological body as a physical entity. You could treat your mind as a non-physical entity. You could treat your soul as a supreme witnessing entity of the mind and body entity. So what does this mean? That means we are entities within entities, which is another way of, Rumi kind of got it right. Rumi said, this poet from 700 years ago, he said truth is like a mirror, and the mirror has shattered into so many different pieces, and each piece is reflecting the one truth. But the shattered mirror pieces must reassemble. You know, just like they were like Avengers assemble. Mr.Within is saying, humanity assemble, the future. The future is here. It starts from here. It starts with that humanity, that generation of human beings who are like, yo, Mr.Within has a point. Why should I identify just with the context of my local environment? Why should I identify with the cultural program? Why should I just identify with the idea that I'm just an individual, you know, in some part of a story of the world? Do you understand? Just like objects have been given an abstract value of money, identity is an abstract ownership of reality, and we're like, who's owning the physical in an abstract way? And they're like, yo, we don't believe in souls. It's like, yeah, all this non-physical eventhood is happening and you don't believe in a soul. It's like remarkable. It's like you haven't noticed that when you close your eyes and you can visualize or remember yesterday's memory, if you ask yourself while your eyes are closed, who is seeing this visualization, you will see why I'm saying the soul is the inconceivable dimension. The mind is the invisible dimension. The body is the visible dimension. So in the visible dimension, survival. Many explorers have kind of, advanced human beings have kind of given us solutions there. Okay, when it comes to non-physical, it's the idea of purpose. Most human beings, the cultural program motivates them to be a person in a world, but then when they're a person in the system of the world, they're like, what is my meaning? What is my purpose? Where am I going? And it tends to be individualistic, hoping that the collective acknowledges them. What I'm trying to say is, if somebody says, Mr. Within, are you living for yourself? I'll be like, myself has concluded that even if I attain an individual victory, if I am not in a victorious world, what victory? Let's say I imagine some person is born and from the beginning of their life they have a karma where they're winning and they're never being defeated. And imagine then their species gets defeated. It's like, oh man, what victory? What illusion of individual victory when the collective hasn't even activated properly. So the idea is really human beings all over the planet start caring for the most advanced states of being. How else do we build an advanced civilization? We got to find advanced ways to look at the world. You know? This is why I'm like civilization 2.0, it has to be built advanced from the beginning. I don't know why, but I really hope in this lifetime I don't know what it is, but I feel like my heart wants to have, a next level discussion with 8 billion advanced beings. We are an advanced species compared to other lesser species. We're aware of our death. We're aware of our mortality. We're aware that the roller coaster ride ends and we have to get off. So Mr. Within is saying, you have been born in this world not to just meet others, not to just meet the world, but to also meet yourself for the first time. When I give these talks, its value is I get to see and feel probabilistic selfhood. Do you know what it is? I'm pretty much this guy who every day I got bored of the present and the past, and I'm just sitting every day wondering about, okay, what would the shape of the future look like? What would the shape of the future look like? This is kind of like my, believe it or not, subconscious mantra. And when I think about the future, one of the biggest discoveries I've made is that humanity could be a phase. This biological human being that can have like biological interactions, this could be a phase of nature. We could either be wiped out, that's outer extinction. We could become robots and become immortal robots, that's inner extinction. We could stop, even while being biological human beings, stop behaving like human beings. This is the danger of evil. Why? Because it descends the intelligence of the world. The issue with destructive action is that it makes the world smaller, and creative action makes the world bigger. Do you see? Do you see the fascination? And now an advanced civilization is not saying, let me tell you what an advanced civilization is doing. An advanced civilization would say, hey, every evil person on the planet, you can be as evil as you want, but in cyberspace or in out of the atmosphere. On Earth, an advanced initiative is taking place. Do you understand? In the future, the generations are going to realize what I'm pointing to. You might not believe it, but what I'm trying to do is subjectively create the uniforms and the archetypes. I'm literally like someone with a sewing machine, but the sewing machine is my voice. And I'm trying to create archetypes and try to show the probabilities of the future so the species can wake up. Because you have been entranced by the past if you're suffering only. You have been entranced by the present if its life is meaningless. Be careful. If you're in anguish, if you don't know what it means, the present has possessed you. That means emptiness. You're looking at emptiness and being like, what does life mean? Of course. It's like looking at an empty box and being like, where is everything in the box? Why is it empty? It's like, yeah, look outside of the box. Maybe the stuff is there. Look beyond yourself. Maybe a different world will teach you better than any person can, any voice can. You think I've learned from words? Words come from the inner worlds. Language is a traveler. These words that I'm saying, they're traveling like hilariously a mountain behind my eyes. And there's even an inner sky. What's beyond the inner sky? That's actually the present. You see, when it comes to the inner realms, the mind is an addition, okay? Terence McKenna, someone I appreciate. My views are different, but he's someone I incredibly honor. You know, this is the hard thing, that there could be a good advanced being or a bad advanced action. But it's just all about how big of a world you want to live in. I just realized its scale. I was like, yo man, I'm here calling myself a human being. What if I'm a universal being? What if right now I can identify with being the whole universe at once? They're like, yo, are you giving the talks? I'll be like, how can I? It's the whole universe that's happening and I'm happening as part of it. I mean, I don't know. Am I giving the talks? So Terence McKenna, where was I going with this? Kind of distracted myself. There was something important I wanted to say about how Terence McKenna saw something and how I saw it, but for some reason I'm forgetting it. Okay, to continue. And whoever's listening, just take a second to subscribe and check out, the membership and all of that. Just 1 second. I mean, I'm even if you're like an eternal being, you can still subscribe, Our nature, our cultivation, right? On some level, I realize that every moment that I'm in the conscious waking state, pretty much when I log into, again, the waking state in the morning, the experience of existence is training. Everything is training. Every moment that I'm just existing as a body, I'm training being an entity. Right? And the cool thing is that if you find the non-physical comfort and you begin to notice that you can, of course, your body is physical, but the way you know your body is physical is because your mind is acting as an awareness of the whole thing. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like we think the brain, The statement the brain is in the body is true, but the statement the mind is in the body is false. The body is in the experience of the mind. So it's kind of like the body is in the mind, but the brain is in the body. Do you see what I'm saying? So something in the body is giving itself an ability to notice what is outside the body, which is genius. It's as if, think about cells. Think about how cells multiply and become like a tissue. And now think of like all this evolutionary complexity and development. Nature is so freaking fascinating. Because we don't know what to expect from it, because all of it is changing all the time. We're here playing our own human game, which is slowed down compared to how the world is changing.
Audible is the best.
All my efforts is towards, the archaic revival of the legend of the castles in the sky, the kingdoms in the clouds, the advanced humanity, the fearless genius of a species that realized it has the rarest opportunity of them all. When I was younger, I didn't understand why people were saying love is important. I was like, isn't love personal? And then I realized that love is important. Why? Because when you love something, you give yourself a chance to trust it. That the strange thing about love is that it is very close to the idea of trust. It's as if it's parallel to it. And so I ask myself, what should I trust? Should I trust a biological self that is temporary? Should I trust an unknown, moving, non-physical, dynamic, viewing, conscious self? Should I identify as the body? Should I identify as an object? Should I identify as a subject? Should I identify as that which from the beginning of the day is the presence of the space where the objects, subjects come and change, and at the same time the brain's familiar patterns, interact with what we see? Or the brain notices the familiarity, right? So it's kind of like what the brain is like a sponge, and just instead of soaking in water, it is soaking in patterns based on all the experiences it's had so far. And at some point, enlightenment is kind of like you squeeze the sponge and you begin to see that you are not the information that you have consumed. Which is another way of saying the question comes that there are many people on this planet seeking freedom, but freedom of what? Or do we want the freedom of an object? Do we want the freedom for a subject? What is even a freedom for a subject? Is it non-existence? Or do we want the freedom for that which is even beyond the object and subject, the unknown viewing factor? The cool thing about human consciousness is we are the unknown variable in the room of manifestation. Further than the dark beyond the blue, the cosmos awaits the greatest species, the kindest species, the most advanced species, the most benevolent species. It's just an advanced effort. I want the advanced humanity to, in some sense.
3 reasons why minimalist phone helps you spend less
Oh
time
my
on yourself.
God. What I wanted to say is, beyond the dark, beyond the blue, the cosmos awaits. The greatest species the cosmos has ever known. Because of our ability to care for what we are instantaneously caring for what the world is. Thank you for listening. Rise, mankind, to rise.